And welcome to episode 23 of the David Bernard podcast. Today we are going to be introducing you to our newest meteorologist here at Fox 8. She has a really interesting background, and I think she's going to add a lot of value to what I consider to be the best team here in Southeast Louisiana. We're closing up on the last week of June here. Of course, it has been super hot, and it has not been that wet at all. Typically, June is our wettest month of the year. Now, that may change. Next week, we might start to see some heavier tropical moisture move in from the Gulf of Mexico. But for the meantime, it looks like some of the hottest weather of the summer so far, and certainly some of the hottest weather we've seen in several years, will be ahead over the next couple of days, where some spots will get near 100 degrees, and that could happen on the South Shore as well. As far as the tropics go, all is quiet for the time being, but I'll be watching some things over the next week or so that could be of interest. But right now, nothing is developing. So again, today we're going to introduce you to our new meteorologist, Hannah Gard, here at Fox 8. And now, without any further ado, here is our brand new meteorologist, Hannah Gard, here at Fox 8. You may have already seen her on the weekend morning edition. She's even popped up on some of the afternoon shows. Hannah, we're so excited to have you here in New Orleans.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about, I want people to get to know you a little bit. And let's just first talk about where you grew up, what part of the country.
Okay. So I was originally born in Houston, but we didn't stay there very long. We moved when I was around 1 year old. So I technically grew up in Colorado Springs, Colorado. That's where I went to school. I lived there for around 18 years of my life. So that's what I would call home, even though I do have roots in the South. So I always kind of wanted to come back, but I did grow up by the mountains and in the snow and the cold.
I'd forgotten that little fact that you were actually born in Houston. So you and I have that in common. I stayed a lot longer, all 18 years. But so we were both born in Houston. You know, Colorado, I mean, it's a beautiful state. And my goodness, as far as weather goes, it has about everything that you can imagine, except, I guess, hurricanes. What was that like growing up as a child weather-wise?
I mean, I feel like everywhere you go, people are like, oh, the weather here is so crazy. But I feel like of all the places I've been, Colorado really does have some of the craziest weather I've seen. I mean, we would have a day that was almost 90 degrees, and then the next day it would be snowing 6 inches and 32 degrees. So you just got very drastic swings in temperatures. We would have gorilla hail all the time along the front range of the mountains. We got severe weather. We would see tornadoes because I lived on the Front Range. We had Kansas out to the east of us, so we saw tornadoes, flash flooding, wildfires. We really saw everything except hurricanes, like you said. So lots of weather growing up.
Did I hear you say gorilla hail?
Gorilla hail. We got big hail. Actually, the day before I moved to college, we had a hailstorm that had softball-sized hail, and it totaled my windshield of my car right before I had to drive to Oklahoma.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is crazy. We start getting, silver dollar size hail around here. That's pretty rare. But softball size hail, that's pretty dramatic. Was that what got you interested in meteorology? Was there any specific event, or was it just the weather in general?
So part of the reason that I was interested in the weather is because my dad is a total weather nerd. So growing up, because I lived on the mountain, we would get afternoon thunderstorms every afternoon. It was around 3 o'clock. You could bet every day in the summer we would get a thunderstorm. So my dad and I, whenever he was home, we would set up camp chairs in the garage, and we would just sit and watch the lightning, and sometimes it would hail. We'd go get hailstones. So that was part of the reason that I really enjoyed the weather. But then the other reason was when I was 5, I was watching Hurricane Katrina coverage, and I saw them out there getting blown away with their microphones and their raincoats on. And I told my mom, I want to do that. And she was like, you want to stand in a hurricane? And I was like, yeah. And I'm like 5. I'm very little. And she was like, oh, okay. And here I am in New Orleans.
And of course, I'm glad you gave some perspective on that about your observations of Hurricane Katrina. That was through the eyes of a 5-year-old. Obviously,
exactly.
You weren't able to comprehend and understand the gravity of everything else that was going on at the time.
Exactly. And I think growing up somewhere that we didn't have hurricanes and stuff, that was the first time I really saw what a hurricane was like. And I was very little. So I just thought it was something that was interesting. And that, I mean, I was in Colorado watching that, and it was something that impacted me so much that I wanted to join the field.
So tell us a little about your college life. You alluded to it that your car got demolished right before you're supposed to go off to meteorology school. You went to the University of Oklahoma, and I'm a big Longhorns fan. I got my horns up here, but I have to acknowledge that the University of Oklahoma does have probably one of the premier meteorology schools in the country. And that's one of the reasons I became interested in you. And also because I saw just the talent and the potential that was there. Maybe I answered my own question, but was there any specific reasons you picked University of Oklahoma?
So I know you're a UT fan, but my mom is an Aggie, so she went to Texas A&M.
Oh,
and
boy.
she wanted to take me there to tour it because they have a meteorology program. And she was Googling meteorology programs across the country, and on the way was Oklahoma down to Texas from Colorado. So she was like, oh, we should drive through Norman and just look at the campus. And I was like, I am not going to Oklahoma. I'm not going to live there. I'm not going to drive through there. Because in my mind, I just thought it was like Kansas. I had driven through Kansas a couple times, and I'm just not a big flat land person, especially growing up in the mountains. So I thought that's what it looked like. I was like, I am not driving through there. I'm already iffy about Texas. And then I gave in, and we drove through there anyways. And the second that I was on the campus, I was like, wait, this place is actually really cool. It's really cute. And then we went to the National Weather Center, which is where the meteorology program is on campus. It's in this gigantic glass government building. That's where all the meteorology classes are. And I was like, wait, this is actually very cool. And then I toured Gaylord, which is the journalism college on campus. And it's actually the #2 journalism school in the country. And they have a whole newsroom. They do weather on the news. And after visiting it, I told my mom, actually, we don't have to go to A&M. I'm going to go to school here. And she was like, what? So
and you
I ended up not even going.
You have a long list of Aggies in your family.
Yep, my mom's an Aggie, my little brother's an Aggie, my older sister's an Aggie, and her husband's an Aggie.
Oh boy, and there's Hannah out there as the Sooner, and then we're teeing up for an SEC reunion. It's going to get nasty in that household, I think, huh?
Oh, tomorrow we have an Aggies OU baseball game.
Okay, tough question here. All right, so when Oklahoma plays Texas A&M, you're going to be for OU, of course. Okay, how about when Texas plays Texas A&M? Remember, I'm kind of your boss. I'm kind of your boss.
I know. I think that I'm going to have to plead the fifth on that one.
Oh, boy, I hate it when people split it down the middle like that. All right, well.
I mean, I can't. It's either make my mom angry or make you angry.
I know. We have a saying in Texas, the only thing in the middle of the road are yellow stripes and dead armadillos. So you got to pick a side. Yep. At any rate, that's okay, Hannah. I'm not going to put you any more on the spot than that. It's fascinating, and when I was reading about you before you even applied for the job, and I came across your work on Facebook through one of your mentors, you've had a pretty interesting experience for a college student. I mean, you've had a lot of different experiences, and some of it really is thanks to the pandemic in a way. Why don't you take us through a little bit of what your college life was like? You obviously majored in meteorology, and how you merged that with the journalism school there.
Yeah, so I decided I wanted to major in meteorology. I was originally through high school. I was like, oh, maybe I'll just be a journalist. But then once I realized you could do meteorology, I decided I'm going to do it. I want to do the science, the math, a lot of math, and I went for it. So once I started at OU, we had a lot of school clubs. Specifically, the one that I was the most involved in was OU Nightly, which is our on-campus live broadcasted newscast, and it's fully student-led. Everybody who runs it is either a journalism student, and then we have meteorology students who would do the weather on the newscast, and it ran 5 days a week. We would do it at 4:30 every day. So I joined that immediately once I got to the school, because that was kind of the reason that I decided to go there after seeing it during my tour. And once I got involved in that, I joined the weather team. I was a weather assistant. I did web team, and it was pretty involved. It was very much like every newsroom I've seen now in my career. It was pretty much the same thing. So they had a really good setup there. We won a lot of awards for what we were putting out, and it was broadcasted live in OKC and Tulsa. So it was a pretty good opportunity for a school. And then alongside that, we had the Oklahoma Weather Lab, which was a student forecasting club. So on the Friday shift, it was each night there was a shift. We would do broadcast specific work. So it was with other broadcast students who were meteorology majors, and we all kind of talked about the field, and we would do interviews with people who were working in the field. So that kind of got me involved as well. But after my freshman year, I went back to Colorado, and I had shadowed a meteorologist at one of the local stations. It was at KKTV when I was a senior in high school, because I kind of wanted to know what the job was like before I went and decided to give 4 years of my life to the major. So I had shadowed her in high school, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is so cool. So when I got back home for the summer, I emailed her and I was like, hey, do you need an intern? And they were like, yes, we do. Just send us a reel. And I had like 4 clips from OU Nightly, so I edited them together.
That's great. Hey, that's how you have to do it. I mean, I got my first internship kind of in the same way, but there wasn't any email back then. So I had to just go up and, gang up on the guy in person. I was like, hey, you're the weather guy. Can I have an internship? That's how we had to do it back in the olden days, my olden days, I guess as you would say. So the next part, which I thought was interesting, there's 2 more parts to your story in college, which I think really enriched your experience. And I think what you're bringing here to Fox 8 is more than what the typical college student would bring. You did get an opportunity to actually do some TV, not just on OU Nightly, but at an actual TV station in Southwest Oklahoma. And just to let everybody know, we're talking about Lawton, Oklahoma. I'll let you talk about it. It happens to be owned by the same company that owns Fox 8 in New Orleans. So I was able to check up on you with some of the meteorologists there, which only confirmed what I already knew, is that I thought you were a great talent. How did you juggle college and actually doing television?
So I originally applied for the job because during that semester, it was my spring semester of junior year, pretty much everything went online because of COVID. So most of my classes were online. A lot of our clubs and things like that were all online. We really weren't having a ton of in-person meetings. So I saw the job opening. It was for a weekend meteorologist, and I was like, I'm just going to apply. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? They just don't answer me. And so I did. And they got back to me. They were like, oh, we're really interested in you. And it ended up where the school had a fellowship program already in place for people that did news and producers and reporters with that station. So they said, I don't know why we couldn't do a meteorologist. So we worked that out. And I ended up living in a hotel 5 days a week in Lawton.
Oh my gosh.
And I would drive an hour away. And I did the weekend evening broadcast. I also did the weekend morning. So that was 5 months. I was there every weekend, and I was also enrolled in 16 hours of school and writing my honors thesis.
I am almost about to pass out just thinking about all that happening at the same time. And when I was looking at your video reel, I mean, you were doing real weather there in Lawton. I saw tornado outbreaks and all kinds of severe weather.
Yes. The first week I was there was in February, and we had a historic ice storm. So there was around 6 inches of snow across most of the area. All the power went out. There was just a lot going on there. Everything was shut down for about a week. And then 2 weeks after that, we had a tornado outbreak out in the Texas Panhandle. So I was out there. And then in May, we had another tornado outbreak. That one was a little bit closer. It was around the Wichita Falls area. And I went out chasing for them. And that was when me and one of our photographers got the first imagery of a tornado live on that station. So that was really cool because that was also the first time I saw a tornado.
Yeah, so I was going to ask. So you've seen a tornado, and just so everybody catches what you just said there, that was the first time for that television station. It's a small market in Lawton, Oklahoma, that you'd captured a tornado live on the air.
Yes, we'd had storm chasers before that went out there, but it would be after the fact. It had never been live streamed on there that we had gotten tornado coverage. So, and it was the first one I ever saw. It was very cool.
Okay,
and it was out in the cornfields in Texas.
Not bothering anybody.
It was not bothering anyone.
That's good. Those are the kind of tornadoes that we like. All right, and the last little part I want to talk about is your experience on a national level somewhat. I found this very interesting when I was reading about your experiences, and it was kind of due to the pandemic.
Yeah, so originally I was looking for an internship after my Lawton experience for the summer before my senior year. And I saw an application for CNN, and one of my friends had done an internship with them before, so I was kind of interested in it, so I applied, and I ended up getting the position to work with the CNN weather team, and because of the pandemic, it was all remote. So I was able to do everything from my laptop, and they mailed me a bunch of stuff, and I was their weather intern for the summer, so a lot of the stuff I did was write the digital weather articles that were on the CNN website, so I did a lot of that. We made graphics. I helped the producers because pretty much everything was remote at that point still. They still weren't in the office. So everyone was just working remotely from home. So I got to be really involved in what they were doing because I could do all the same stuff even though we weren't in the building.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, you're really lucky to have had those experiences as a college student. I mean, it makes you more than a well-rounded person. As I was talking to like some of the folks here, they're like, well, she's just getting out of school. And I mean, no, undoubtedly, you have a lot to learn still. I mean, but my point was, hey, this young woman is coming from a foundation of experience that you do not find with many college students. And you've hit the ground running here. I think it's fantastic. All right, now I'm going to get the part I'm most excited about. Okay, so when Hannah came on her interview, you did tell me you were born in Houston. I forgot about that on the drive from the airport to the station. I forgot that aspect. But one of the more interesting items I was to learn, and by the way, for your interview, I took you to the floor of the Superdome. All right, because the Home and Garden show was going on and Fox 8 was sponsoring. I thought, okay, this would be super cool. I'm going to take her into the Superdome, the whole thing. We get in the Superdome. She goes, this is great because I'm a Saints fan. I said, you're a what? I said, look, I know the whole country loves the Saints, but what was the chance of me plucking this candidate out of obscurity from Colorado by way of Oklahoma, and she lands in New Orleans, and I'm thinking, she's just telling me this because she wants the job. I don't know if I believe this, but and folks, be watching this space for it coming up soon and on Hannah's social media channels. There is the photo to prove it. Now, I'm going to let you tell the story now on how this came about and give everyone the context for it on how you became a Saints fan.
Yes. So I grew up in Broncos country. So my whole family, diehard Broncos fans. My brother, my dad, my mom kind of. And always growing up, they were like, we love the Broncos. But when I was in fourth grade, we did a state fair project. So I made a little board, and my state was Louisiana. So I had all my Mardi Gras stuff on there. I had the Saints on there. I had all the state birds, the state flower, all that stuff. But the day before the state fair was going to happen was when the Super Bowl was. So it was that Sunday, and then the next day was the state fair. And that was the year in 2010 that the Saints won the Super Bowl. So
I know. I was there on top of it all. Yes. A day that will never be forgotten in Southeast Louisiana.
So, I was 10, and I did not care about football. I really did not. But I had the state fair project, and I knew the Saints were in the Super Bowl. So I said, I'm going to watch it, and if they win, then I can talk about how they won the Super Bowl. So I watched it. It was probably the first football game I had actually tried to watch in my life. And I watched the whole thing, and then they won, and I put it on my board, and I said it during the entire day. You know, they asked questions. They're like, "Oh, tell us about Louisiana." I was like, "Well, they won the Super Bowl yesterday." So every day after that, I decided I was a Saints fan, and it really annoyed my brother because he was a diehard Broncos fan, and in his opinion, I had no business being a Saints fan because I didn't live there and I didn't really know anything about it. But I was like, I don't care. I'm a Saints fan.
That's
I
it.
love Drew Brees. And he was like, you don't even know anything about them. But I always decided I was a Saints fan, so I really have been since I was around 10 years old. Because I haven't been a
Hannah,
Broncos fan since then.
Hannah, you love Drew Brees. You love the Saints. That's
Yep.
it. Everyone is going to be ingratiated to you now. That's all you need to do. I don't care what your forecasts are, whatever thing. You right there nailed it on the head. I think it's an adorable story. And her mom found the actual picture of her standing in front of the Louisiana poster,
Yep.
which I can't wait for you guys to see it. It's like as cute as could be.
It's great.
Okay.
And it's like a developed picture. It's fantastic.
It really is. And
I
you
have a
got
Mardi Gras mask on.
and you're I know it's like this was like meant to happen. Now,
Yeah.
earlier you referenced when you were driving to check out schools, you were like, I don't know, Oklahoma's so flat. I don't, from Colorado. All right, I hate to break it to you here, but not only is it flat here, it actually kind of dips even lower at times. So I don't have any
Yes.
mountains for you here in Southeast Louisiana. Is that okay?
Yeah, honestly, I grew up with the mountains, and when you live somewhere, even it is beautiful. Colorado Springs is a beautiful place, but when you live somewhere your whole life, you kind of lose that. So I've always been a beach girl. I've always wanted to be on the beach. I love the beach. My mom and I are always on the beach vacations, not ski trips. So I kind of like it more. Also, I do not like the cold. I do not like the cold. I would take 90-degree days over the cold anytime.
We've got everything in common there,
Yeah.
completely. So, we're in the middle of this heat wave right now. And actually, before the heat wave started, when a few weeks ago, you were like, I love hot weather. It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, it still doesn't bother me. I mean, it's annoying that you get sweaty, but it is what it is. I mean, I'd rather it be hot. I don't want to be shoveling my driveway for 2 hours before I'm supposed to go somewhere. I don't want to have to wear giant coats around.
That's a
It's so
very
much better.
practical approach. I agree. I hate all the clothes with winter and the layering and all that. It's a lot of work.
No.
All right,
The
so
air conditioning kicks on so much faster than the heat too.
you've been in New Orleans now for, has it been almost a month? 3 or 4 weeks?
Yeah, a few months.
It's coming on about a month, and your folks have come down to visit, and this past Father's Day weekend. How are you feeling about things? How are you getting settled in so far?
Honestly, I love the city. I love it. I think there's a lot of stuff to do. I always told my mom I wanted to live somewhere cool when I grew up. I didn't really have a specific place I wanted to live because they moved a lot. Now we don't have anyone in Colorado. It wasn't like I wanted to go back there. I just wanted to find somewhere cool with cool weather to forecast and cool people. And my dad always talked about how much he loved New Orleans, so I think that was in the back of my head too. But I have really, really enjoyed it. I think the people here are great. Everyone has been so nice. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to eat. There's just so much stuff here. And it has a lot of like soul and culture that I haven't seen anywhere else that I've been.
That's great. That's really good to hear. Well, I can tell you that on behalf of myself and the Condor, Bruce, and Zach, the whole weather gang here, we're really happy to have you. And I think you're going to contribute a lot to the team, not only this summer, but in the years ahead. So thanks for coming on the podcast today, Hannah.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy that y'all invited me onto your team and into the community.
And that concludes episode 23 of the David Bernard Podcast. Remember that you can watch this podcast on our website, fox8live.com/David. And of course, if you want to listen to it, you can listen to it anywhere you get your other podcasts. A reminder that our website is up, fox8live.com/hurricane, for all things hurricanes this hurricane season, which hopefully is not going to amount to all that much. Again, today's Tuesday, June 21st. I'm Chief Meteorologist David Bernard. Thanks for listening.